Okay, so what if I told you that art is way more than just, pretty pictures or emotional music? What if it's actually a powerful way of thinking, a tool for understanding the world around us? Well, the philosopher Nelson Goodman thought exactly that, and his ideas, they're pretty radical. They might just completely change how you look at art forever.
All right, let's start with a classic art world puzzle. You've definitely seen this before. Imagine you're looking at two paintings. They're side by side, and I mean they look exactly the same. One is a priceless original, let's say a Rembrandt. The other? It's a perfect forgery. So the question is simple, right? Which one is the real deal?
Okay, now let's try the same kind of question, but with music. You've got two different orchestras, maybe one in New York and one in London. They both play Beethoven's Fifth, and they both nail it. They follow the score perfectly. So which one is the authentic symphony? It feels like a weird question, doesn't it? It almost sounds like a trick question, because who would even ask that?
Well, here's the thing. According to our philosopher Nelson Goodman, only one of those questions actually makes sense. The one about the painting, totally valid. The one about the music, it's pretty much nonsense. In figuring out why he thought that, that's where we get this incredible insight into what art is really all about.
So Goodman's whole starting point is a total game changer. He basically said, hey, art isn't just about feelings. He argued that art, just like science, is a cognitive activity. It's about using our brains. It's a way we make sense of our reality, using symbols to organize and even build the worlds we live in. So for him, aesthetics, it's not really about, is it beautiful? It's about, what can we learn from it?
And that means art and science aren't these polar opposites we always imagine them to be. Nope. For Goodman, they're partners on the exact same mission, figuring out our reality. They're both trying to discover and interpret the world. They're just using, different languages, different sets of symbols to get the job done.
And this really gets to the heart of it. He believed that to really understand a piece of art, whether it's a painting or a symphony, you have to understand how its symbols are working to create meaning. Suddenly, aesthetics isn't just about taste. It's a quest for knowledge, just like physics or biology, but in a totally different language.
So you might be asking, how exactly do these artistic symbols work? Well, Goodman gives us this really neat toolkit to figure it out. He says that artworks refer to things in the world, but they do it in a few really specific ways. Let's break down his three big ideas: denotation, exemplification, and expression.
Okay, first up is denotation. And this one's the easy one. It's super straightforward. It's just when a symbol points to something. The word apple points to the actual fruit. A painting of a dog denotes, a dog. It's just a label standing for a thing. Simple enough, right?
But this is where things get really clever. The next one is exemplification, and it's basically reference going in the other direction. Goodman's classic example is a tailor's fabric swatch. So think about it. The little piece of cloth actually is red. It possesses the property of redness, but it's not just some random red thing. Its job is to act as a sample of redness. It has the property, and then it points back to the label red. That's what he calls possession plus reference.
So just to make that crystal clear, denotation is a one-way street. The label points to the object. The word dog points to the furry animal. But with exemplification, the object itself points back to the label. The red swatch points to the idea of redness. It's a sample.
Okay, and that brings us to expression. This solves a huge puzzle. How can a piece of music be sad? I mean, music doesn't have feelings, right? It's just sound waves. Goodman's answer here is just brilliant. He says it's metaphorical exemplification. The music doesn't literally feel sadness, but we apply the label sad to it as a metaphor. Then the music exemplifies that metaphorical property. It's expressing sadness without actually being sad. Mind-blowing, right? All right, so now that we have this new toolkit, denotation, exemplification, and expression, let's go all the way back to that first puzzle. Remember? The forgery versus the original painting and the two symphonies? Goodman's big idea here, the distinction between autographic and allographic art, is going to solve it for us.
So first, let's talk about autographic art. And the clue is right there in the name. Think autograph. With this kind of art, like a painting, the identity of the work is completely tied to its specific history. Who made it, when they made it, how they made it, all that stuff matters. There's no separate recipe or score to follow, and that's why even a perfect molecule-for-molecule copy is still a forgery. It just doesn't have the right history. And then you have the flip side, allographic art. This is stuff like music or a play or a novel. These art forms are defined by a notational system, a musical score, a script, the text of a book.
The identity of the work isn't tied to one single object, but to correctly following those instructions. So, any performance that perfectly follows Beethoven's score is a genuine performance of Beethoven's Fifth. Period.
And boom, there's the answer. This is the absolute core of it. This is why asking which one is the forgery makes total sense for a painting, but it's a nonsense question for a symphony. With autographic art, like the painting, history is literally everything. But with allographic art, like music, the score is everything. A perfect copy of the painting is a fake. A perfect performance of the score is just another real performance.
What's really interesting is that Goodman never tries to give a rigid definition of what is art. He thought that was the wrong question. Instead, he asked a much better question: when is art? He identified certain features, or what he called symptoms, that usually pop up when a symbol system is being used in an artistic or aesthetic way.
Now, these symptoms help us understand why art feels so incredibly rich and dense. He uses some fancy terms, but the ideas are pretty simple. For instance, syntactic density just means that in something like a drawing, unlike a number on a calculator, any tiny change, the slightest wobble of the line, can create a totally new symbol with a new meaning. Then there's syntactic repleteness, which means that pretty much every feature matters. The color, the texture, the paint, the thickness of the line, it's all part of the symbol. It's this incredible multi-layered richness that really makes artistic symbols so special.
Okay, so we've got these really rich, complex symbols. And all of this builds up to what is probably Goodman's most profound idea: world making. If art is a symbol system for understanding the world, then its ultimate power isn't just to show us the world we already live in, it's to actively create brand new worlds for us to experience. And you know, Goodman himself said it best. He really argued that we have to take the arts just as seriously as we take the sciences, that they're a vital way we discover things, create things, and expand our knowledge. For him, art isn't just a hobby. It's a fundamental piece of how we make sense of everything.
So what does that actually mean, art creates worlds? It means that by giving us these new symbol systems, these new ways of seeing and hearing and feeling, art literally builds new realities for us. It gives us new categories to put things in, it shines a spotlight on details we would have missed, and it creates connections we never would have made on our own.
I'm sure you've experienced this yourself. Think about walking out of a museum after looking at, say, a bunch of Monet paintings. All of a sudden you look at the trees outside and the light just hits them differently. You start noticing colors in the shadows that you were completely blind to before. The paintings didn't just show you a pretty picture of a world. They literally gave you new eyes to see your own world with. That's world making in action.
So the next time you're looking at a painting or listening to a piece of music and it really hits you, just stop and ask yourself this: what's happening here isn't just about beauty. That artwork is offering you a brand new symbolic language. It's giving you a new way to see. So the real question is, when that art changes how you see, what world has it just made for you?